Welcome back to the Funding Blueprint, the podcast where we explore what it really takes to build a startup that not only grows, but fits the life you actually want to live. I'm your host, Cece Nahaman, and today we're talking with someone who's flipped the traditional startup script, Johnathan Newman. Johnathan's a founder, a former W-2 employee, and a college dropout who's decided that chasing someone else's version of success wasn't the path. So he created his own. Now he runs Good Theory, a growth agency he co-founded with his wife, and he's just as committed to helping small business owners scale predictably and sustainably as he is to fly fishing and spending time with family. In today's episode, we're digging into his unconventional journey to entrepreneurship, why building your own business is one of the best tickets to living life on your own terms, and how anchoring into authenticity can actually make you a better founder. We'll also talk about the role inner work plays in startup success and why what's happening inside often matters just as much as what's happening on your balance sheet. Let's get into it. Johnathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I always get a little perk up when I hear the fly fishing thing, but I know we're here to talk about the founder journey, but excited to dive in.
Awesome. We're so excited to have you. Well, let's just get right into it. A lot of founders talk about building businesses that reflect their values, but few actually structure their companies to support the kind of life they want to live. What's refreshing about your story is how clearly you've prioritized that from the beginning, whether it's spending time with family, going fly fishing, or simply choosing who you work with and how. But none of that happened by accident. It came from a pretty intentional pivot. So Johnathan, tell us a little bit more about your path to where you are now. And can you take us back to a moment where you realized you needed to make your own blueprint instead of following someone else's?
Totally. I have sort of like a PTS feeling because it wasn't like a sunshine and butterflies type of moment with that pivot. But I'll even go back just a little bit further. I think the context will be helpful is that I grew up the son, like a military brat to a retired chief master sergeant in the Air Force. And like that, like rigidity in Air Force structure is like how I was raised. So entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial journeys at all were never mentioned in our family. Too risky, too scary, too taboo. So I never thought that way. And as I kind of climbed the traditional corporate ladder over many, many years, I realized that it's not super predictable, and there's also risk in 9 to 5 as well. I was just promoted. Things were going wonderful. My son was born, an amazing moment in my time. And I got back from paternity leave, and the day I got back, I was let go. So even though I was having an amazing time, the company was great, I was doing well, it just showed me that when you're working for someone else, like at any moment, no matter how great things feel, that rug can be pulled from underneath you. And that was it. And that was the moment I was like, I need to do something for myself, and got that entrepreneurial bug planted in my head.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people can obviously relate to that. So thank you for sharing that part. For so many founders, the dream of entrepreneurship starts with freedom, the ability to call your own shots, like you said, and do meaningful work and live life truly on your own terms. But somewhere along the way, that vision can get buried under long hours, constant pressure, and the noise of this hustle culture. It's easy to lose sight of why you started in the first place, which brings me to my next question. What does living life on your own terms actually look like for you now? And how has that entrepreneurship aspect helped make that possible?
Yeah, so I think living life on your own terms, that thought has changed over time, right? And has morphed and changed with my journey. In the beginning, it was just really about being able to do small things that I wanted to do when I wanted to do them. It could be as small as like picking my son up from daycare during the middle of the day, or maybe going for a morning hike at 11 o'clock and not having to report back to someone. And a big one, my co-founder, my wife, my life partner, my business partner is from Europe. So spending time with our family in Europe and not have to answer to anyone was really what grounded me into living life on my own terms. And that's what that meant to me. But like you mentioned, like the hustle culture, it's very easy to get into something with that being where you're rooted. But for that to change, not because it's your fault, but just because the requirements and the the hustle that it does take to be a successful entrepreneur. So at the beginning, it just meant being able to call my own shots, being able to travel and live a life full of experience. And that's still the goal.
Yeah, I love that. So obviously stepping away from that traditional path, like you said, it gave you the freedom to spend that time with family and travel and define success on your own terms. But what's powerful is that it wasn't just about leaving something, it was about intentionally creating something better, better suited to your life. And that kind of clarity doesn't just show up overnight. It usually comes from making some deliberate choices early on, or like you said, something happening to you that you kind of have to redirect from. So, when starting Good Theory, what were some of those intentional business choices you made early on to design the company to be built around your life and give you that flexibility and that freedom and not the other way around?
Yeah, I think for me, it was a part of my journey and understanding like how liberating and how much freedom I felt I have from going from corporate 9 to 5 into being an entrepreneur or founder of my own business. And just realizing that it's not easy. And a lot of times you see influencers or these people, these gurus talking about like laying on the beach and being a nomadic entrepreneur. Like that's amazing, but it is very, very difficult work. It's probably twice as much work as a 9 to 5, but it's so passion driven that it makes it easier to get through. So I think for me, it was like anchoring into why I want to do this. And for me, it was to be able to live life on my own terms, but to be able to help people also do that. So our clients are very busy solopreneurs, and to be able to provide a service to them that helps them weather those bad storms as well is such an important thing to me, because when it gets tough, the mission, the vision, and my values are really what like drive me through the rough seas. So I think it's super important just anchoring into why are you doing it? Because if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, if it's just to live on the beach and sit Mai Tais and have your computer with you, as soon as it gets tough, that'll usually burn people out. So I think it's just starting a business for the right reason. Whatever that reason is, it can be different for different people, but just to be anchored into the reasoning behind what you're doing, super important.
I completely agree. Definitely. How did you come up with like structuring Good Theory to revolve around this concept?
Sure. Yeah. So it's funny because in the beginning, all we did as like a marketing agency more than a growth agency was just push traffic to a business, right? Like to a landing page, to a website. And we learned really quickly that traffic wasn't the problem. They had like no positioning, no branding, terrible messaging. So we would actually not do campaigns and then focus on the branding and the positioning pieces. And I'm a designer at heart. My co-founder is as well. So we're like, we like that work much better anyway. So we actually flipped the business, the model, and like really focused on the foundational, like go-to-market strategy positioning piece, and then pushing traffic to these polished brands. And then we've just added a third element with technology and automation. And the reason we sort of operate at the intersection of those three, branding, design, go-to-market, digital marketing, and technology automation, is because like with those three things, you can scale sustainably, like keep your sanity, and you can scale predictably, right? And if for someone who's a solopreneur or a small business owner, I think those two things are most important. So that's what they need to support that life of living on your own terms, working on the business, not in it. You hear people talk about all the time. So our model was really baked around like how do we provide the most value and how do we free up busy entrepreneurs or busy founders to focus on either revenue driving activities, growth activities, or family and friends. It's up to them to decide, but not to be stuck in the weeds is really how we structured it.
That's super unique and cool. When you're making those foundational choices, how to structure your time, who you want to work with, what kind of business you actually want to have. Those choices are made, and the real challenge becomes staying aligned with them. It's one thing to set the intention, but it's another to consistently show up in a way that honors it, especially as your business grows and pressures can mount. That's where authenticity really comes into play, not just in your brand, but how you lead. In the startup world, authenticity is a pretty big buzzword, but you've really anchored it into a core value for yourself and your business. So, how has staying true to yourself and being authentic to your brand helped you become a better founder and a better leader?
It's a great question. Sure, definitely is a buzzword. You hear authenticity everywhere and kind of thrown around. And for me, it is super important. One is coming from corporate America 9 to 5 world into an entrepreneurship role, or being a founder is like imposter syndrome, also another buzzword, but super true. And understand like, do I belong here? And trying to be someone you're not is something that people get stuck into and entrepreneurs fall into. So I think anchoring into your authentic self does a couple of things. One, it grounds you, right? And like you're doing things for yourself, but no one's better at being you than you. So like once you're yourself, like I have a bunch of tattoos, like I might not fit the mold, but as soon as I started like really being myself truly, like a new level of confidence, like I like shot through the roof in confidence. And I think that goes so far into connecting with people and building relationships that are all a part and super important for being a successful entrepreneur. So for me, it was just being myself and honoring myself. But that also opened me up and created like a new level of confidence for sure in my personal life and as a founder for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a very valuable takeaway a lot of people will connect with. Let's see. That kind of brings me to my next point about kind of the inner work of entrepreneurship. You know, we spend so much time talking about the strategies, the funding, the growth hacks, all the external milestones of entrepreneurship. But I feel like from this conversation, what people can see is what often gets overlooked is the inner journey. You know, the mindset shifts, the emotional highs and lows, the personal growth that's required just to stay in the game, especially when things can get challenging. And yet, that inner work determines whether a founder can sustain the pace, the pressure, and the long term vision. So, I really don't think that we hear enough about that inner work of entrepreneurship, the mindset, the emotional resilience. I know you've touched a little bit on that, but what's your take on, balancing the inner journey as well as, comparing to that external journey of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it's funny because you say I hear the word balance and I just think about like how unbalanced things are, and I think that that's okay. I don't think there's really ever a true balance. And I'd be lying if I said like going into being an entrepreneurship, I was like grounded in myself completely. It's been an ongoing journey, and I think for me, I touched on it earlier, like you said, is like being an entrepreneur, being a founder is very challenging, right? And it does test you. And I think the inner work is what's going to give you the strength and like the reps and the practice to weather the really tough times. So for me personally, one was like anchoring into authenticity was a big part of that. But also I'm just full of buzzwords, but like stepping outside of your comfort zone, right? You hear that all the time as well, but it's so true because like networking and things like that, pitching to large crowds is terrifying to me. So just understanding that like there's positivity and pain and like purposely suffering a bit to make it easier to weather the tough times. So I think it's incredibly important to really focus on yourself personally. And the more work you do there, like I think the more it can propel you into success, whatever that means for you as a founder.
Yeah, definitely. Completely agree. I think that's beautifully said. Um, Kind of expanding on that a little. One of the toughest spots a founder can land in is when they've built no longer, what they've built no longer feels aligned. The excitement can fade, the work can feel heavy. They start questioning whether they are on the right path. It's more common than people admit, and it doesn't always mean the business is broken, but something definitely needs attention. And in those moments, it's not just about fixing a strategy or tweaking a business model. It's about reconnecting with purpose, reconnecting with yourself. So, for founders listening who might feel out of alignment, maybe they're feeling burned out or building something that doesn't feel true to them anymore, what advice would you give them to help them reset or reconnect with their original why?
You're not an outlier. It's not strange that you're feeling that way. People don't talk about it enough, but it is super common. And like every founder goes through it at some point. And I think the important thing, and my one piece of advice, is to check in with yourself all the time, right? So whether that's like daily check-ins, monthly, quarterly, yearly, you name it, is to plan out what does that look like and check in at those points and look back. Like, am I still aligned? Does this still feel good? If all the boxes are checked or the important ones to move forward are, then you can continue on. And if there is misalignment, to get under that. Like, what does that mean? Like, what is happening here? Is it me personally, I'm not aligned, or is it I'm feeling overwhelmed? But just to address those challenges. And if a pivot is required or ideal, then it's okay. Like, a lot of people get so down the path of like, I want to make this work, that they force, a square peg into a round hole, and it's not good. And to change, I said fly fishing, I did get to bring it back here a little bit, is like a river, right? And it's meandering, right? And it flows and it changes over time, and we change over time. And we're not going to be the same person now as we are going to be in 5 years. So I think it's important to change with your business, with your purpose, and all that kind of will just change over time. So don't be married to an idea. If it needs to change it early, and don't wait till years down the road, because it becomes more and more difficult to separate or pivot once you've blown past those early signals. So to circle back, it's just checking in with yourself regularly, meaningfully, and allowing yourself to change and to meander if needed.
Did you have an experience kind of similar that, gave you that perspective that you have now today? Did you experience something that forced you to feel that along the lines while you're, founding Good Theory? I mean, I know, you kind of pivoted to creating your own company due to one setback and you pushed through. But were there any setbacks during your time building Good Theory where you felt this challenge and this, kind of being thrown off course or losing, direction a little?
Yeah. Things always go wrong when you run your own business. And I think that's a thing that I learned very early on as well. I remember having an early client that left us, and it was crushing. And I was like, did I do something wrong? Like, what happened? And I was like, it almost totally took me out of it. But I'm like, oh, that happens all the time. Like, people come and people go and they leave, and it's not abnormal to do that. I think for me, it's actually a good sort of dovetail. It kind of ties into all that we've talked about, is like the anchoring into the authenticity piece and the feedback loops and the checking in, because there's a million gurus, there's a million books, there's a million tactics that you can get kind of caught up in. And I think for me as a founder, something that you said recently has happened to me. I think it's following the top trends or the chasing algorithm changes and doing these things and losing touch of like my message personally. So going more around like, what should copy look like to be high converting? And I'll start going that direction instead of like, I don't like how that sounds. It sounds nothing like me. And like restructuring or reworking that copy to align with my values and my beliefs. And every time I do make that change, I go, oh, what was I doing? Like, I was going down that path that I always talk to them, say, don't go down that path, but it happens to us as well, me as well. So again, just knowing like what I want, how I want to be represented, and checking in with myself to make sure that that's still aligned. So I think, I just kind of like beat myself up and go like, why are you doing this? This is not how you operate. So that's a recent example that just ties into being true to yourself and make sure you're continuously checking in with yourself to make sure you're still tracking to that North Star.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Thank you for sharing that with me and with everyone listening. Unfortunately, that's a wrap on today's episode of the Funding Blueprint. Huge thanks to you, Johnathan, for sharing your entrepreneurial journey, but also the deeper, more intentional approach that you bring to building a business, one that's rooted in authenticity, clarity, and living life on your own terms. From challenging the traditional definitions of success to making space for family, hobbies like fly fishing, and meaningful work, your story is a reminder that you don't have to sacrifice your life to build something impactful. You can build with your life in mind, and sometimes that's exactly where your best work comes from.
Yes.
So if you're a founder feeling out of alignment, I hope this conversation helped you take a deep breath, zoom out, and maybe start thinking about your own blueprint a little differently. And if this sparked something for you, be sure to check out Johnathan and his wife's work at Good Theory. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you again, Johnathan. As always,
Yes.
anything resonated, be sure to follow, share it, leave us a review. Thank you again, Johnathan.
Yes.
And
Thank you so much. I
yeah,
appreciate it. There are no rules.
no
As
rule.
a founder, you can break the rules and go have fun. Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much again, and we'll see you next time on the Funding Blueprint. Welcome back to the Funding Blueprint. Today, we're continuing a special two-part conversation with a dynamic duo who are not only co-founders, but life partners, building a company, a vision, and a life together. You just heard from Johnathan Newman, co-founder of Good Theory, and now we're diving into the equally compelling story of Lidija Newman, a third culture entrepreneur, creative powerhouse, and multi-time founder in her own right. After living in 7 countries and studying fashion business in London, Lidija launched her first company at just 24 years old. Since then, she's built 6 businesses, worked in Hollywood fashion, and walked away from all the shoulds to carve a career defined by creativity, intention, and personal freedom. Today, she runs a creative marketing agency in Austin and is passionate about helping women not only build businesses, but build lives that light them up. In this episode, we'll explore Lidija's approach to community building, what it took to leave the 9-to-5 to create a career aligned with her lifestyle, and the unique challenges and advantage of building a business as a foreigner in the US. We also talk about the realities of creative entrepreneurship and what it really looks like to grow a business while also raising a family. If you've ever wondered whether you can build something bold and fulfilling on your own terms, Lidija is living proof that you can. Let's get into it. Lidija, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
Of course, we're so excited to have you, and let's just jump right into it.
Yeah.
So, you've lived in 7 countries and built multiple businesses across cultures. What unique challenges and advantages have you faced building a business in the US, and what advice would you give to other international founders trying to find their footing here?
I would say the most important thing is not to stay in your own bubble, and I think why is that important? It's to be open for other cultures and to be open to integrate here.
Yeah.
What I have found with a lot of people, especially foreigners here, it's that they kind of keep being around their people, and I understand that's very important for like cultural thing, and I do too sometimes. I love spending time speaking in my language and spending time with my people, but I'm very, very open. Maybe just because I feel very comfortable with other people too from other countries. Moving a lot helped me and taught me that too, that you can just stay with your own people, but you have to really expand and learn what are other people talking about and what is their culture. I think is there a lot to learn from that too. Yeah.
Definitely. Were there any unexpected cultural gaps that you had to bridge, either in how you marketed yourself or in how you approached growth?
I think marketing yourself everywhere is the same. I think US, when it comes to marketing, US is the best. It's obviously a country that a lot of things are based on marketing here.
Yeah.
Europe, it's not the same. It's less marketing. It's less, people sell less in general. Here, it's so much competition, and you
Yeah.
always have to like be different and stand out. And it's everything. It's even with the personal branding. That's why now it's all on top. Like you have to be different. You have to differentiate yourself. So yeah, definitely. I would say be yourself.
Yeah.
Because nobody's better than you, right? So. I would say just be yourself, be authentic, and you would find your people. Definitely. Yeah.
I love that. Kind of shifting a little bit here, you've made some big leaps in your life from fashion in London to Hollywood and now running a creative agency in Austin. So, what was the moment you knew the traditional 9-to-5 path wasn't for you? And how did you start building something that actually fit your personal lifestyle?
Oh, um, it's a lot to say here, but let me kind of make it easy on everyone. I think 9 to 5 was never part of my life. I kind of knew that from beginning. I really didn't know until I went into workforce and finished my university in London, and then jumped into 9 to 5. And I think the moment that hit me the most was because I was very creative, and I wanted to always to create and my voice to be heard. I
Yeah.
wanted to contribute to the workforce where I was. And unfortunately, when you work for big corporations, that's not the case.
Yeah.
So I even remember when I started working for this company, I think was like a 500 people working there. You're kind of like just a little part of a huge machine,
Yeah.
and you come every day and do the same thing and the same thing. Although I studied fashion, and I thought in my head that, oh, this is gonna be, I will be creating things and it's gonna be
Hmm.
so cool. No, that was not the case.
Hmm.
So I remember that downstairs was a department where they had photographers and models, and I was more spending time downstairs with people who were more like cool and easygoing and had a lot of things going on than upstairs in the office where we were like doing the same thing every day. So that definitely made me think that I don't think I belong in the office and just sitting in the chair. I need
Yeah.
something different. So that's kind of how that sparked something for me. Let's try something different, what that different is. And
Hmm.
that took me on a journey, a long, long time, really took me to find out what I wanted to do because I was trying different things. Yeah. And I think that's the goal too. If you want to do something different, you just have to try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Def-
And find with time what is that's different.
Yeah. Definitely. So, what does creativity look like in your day-to-day work today? And how do you protect it while still running a business that needs to function and scale?
Well, creativity, I think, for everyone means different. I definitely meet a lot of people who are not in tune with their creative side.
Mhm.
And I think it's very important to be, because that one keeps us alive, I
Yeah.
believe. Second, keeps us being still a little childish and
Yeah.
playful, and in today's world, what I have seen, especially here in America, because people take their work so serious,
Yeah.
they with time they lose that creative side, that
Yeah.
playful side. And for me, it's different things. I would say even outside of my work, when I feel it's like getting really boring, or it's like I'm doing a lot of things that I'm not necessarily enjoying, because every work is gonna have that, right?
Yeah.
I do something different. I go outside and play with my son, or we plant a garden, or I like painting, or I paint sometimes. So anything that is gonna really continue sparking up that creativity. And as well, I mean, my work is creative too,
Yeah.
so we work with a lot of designers and a lot of things. So definitely I try as much as I can to be involved.
Yeah. Definitely. Can you break down some either like structures or, you know, things you have set in place in your actual business that, integrates that creativity with strategy?
um, Not really. I mean, I there is no structure. I really don't have structure sometimes in my everyday life, and it's weird to say for a business owner, because maybe I should have more structure. I kind of like a setup time for myself, what's going to be happening today, but I never forget to have that gaps of like,
Yeah.
oh, go for a walk, do something that please you, or do something fun. Take 2 hours out of your day to do something creative, put some paintings together or put some new design for our house or something like that. So it's just, I think, being in tune with your creative side.
Yeah, definitely. And creative entrepreneurship often means, like you said, juggling that artistry with that business, vision with viability. So, what advice would you give to other creatives who are trying to turn their passion into a sustainable business without losing the heart of what makes it meaningful?
Well, that's what I do now on a daily basis, working with people and helping them really understand what that means for them, right? First of all, like what does that fun, creative life or means for you? What makes you happy? And a lot of times that's how we kind of built their businesses around, not to lose that contact with their creativity and fun, to make it fun as well.
Yeah.
Although I know building business, it's not fun a lot of times.
Yeah.
That's why you have to kind of find ways to keep it alive and fun. So what was the question exactly? Was
Like advice to give other creatives that are wanting to, turn their passion into that meaning, that sustainable business.
Yeah, I think it's first of all just try, right? Try, like first we have to kind of put what is that business like.
Yeah.
Let's say someone has, I don't know, passion for painting on shoes, right? Like, okay, who is interested in this, right?
Yeah.
Do I, because that's the whole point. I have to sell this. So kind of, I think very important is as well to build a community around it. Where are those people
Yes.
that want this type of product, right? Where are they congregating? I am very boots on the ground as well. I love people who are creating something doing to be outside and to test their ideas and to ask people. Even now, for example, we are working with a guy who has like this idea for, he's an artist and he has idea for water, right? And he created this amazing can and wants to give back and preserve water. And I always advise him or anyone else, go outside, go outside and
Yeah.
give water, collaborate with some stores, give water and ask people for feedback, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do they think about this? Do they like it? They don't like it? What they don't like about it? So I think feedback is very important, and those are first steps.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of building a little bit on that community aspect. You help people build careers that really reflect who they are and their personal passions. So, what have you learned about building that community and not just an audience? And how has that shaped the way that you lead and grow your own business as well as others?
Well, it's a huge difference having an audience and community. I think your community is more involved in
Yeah.
everything, and it's kind of like a part of what you sell or your product or who you are. They feel like they contribute more, and that's why I say that doesn't matter what type of business you have, feedback is very important because your community feels heard too. And the second, it's if you build a community around it, it's so much easier for you to build on top of it
Yeah.
because you would always have someone supporting. It's not just about the product, it's about you, and it's about them. So they would love whatever you do no matter what, you know. And I think that's how you have to see that too. You're not just here to look at me, I'm in the light, but it's like, how am I contributing, how am I giving back, how am I making someone else's life better too.
Yeah. Do you have any like specific tactics you can share on how to actually build that trust within a community and not just an audience? I know you mentioned just going out there and giving people, like for that one example, waters, but are there any other ways that people can really connect with a community?
There's so many ways. It depends. Are you if you are building a community in where you live in a
Hmm.
location wise, or is it online too? Because those are like a little bit different things. The one thing, it's either, doesn't matter if it's by the location and online, it's being authentic. That's the most important thing. And being vulnerable, definitely, and being open about. I am very kind of supporter of building in public.
Hmm.
So if you're building any company or anything like that, product, service, or you have something in mind, I think you should share that and talk
Yeah.
about it, because there it's your feedback. There is as well how your community is going to grow, because someone is going to see you, oh, this person is building that, I'm interested in that. So I would definitely say, if it's in location, like when I moved in Austin to Austin a year and a half ago, I started just attending different events and meeting different people. And then after a couple of months, I started my own events, and now we have like almost 300 members.
It's amazing.
So, you know, I think just being you and having like a clear vision, why am I doing this, right? For
Yeah.
for me was, I wanted really to help women,
Hmm.
and I wanted to give them that power that we can build too. We can all as well be business people. We can be
Yeah.
involved in that. So with that mission in mind, I had like a clear goal. What am I building here?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's online, I would say it's kind of the same. You just have to replicate it online and talk about it, talk about your vision, about your mission. What are you building here? What's behind it, your why, and choosing a platform. Today we have so many platforms. I have chose LinkedIn at the moment. So that's where I more talk about what am I building, what's my mission and vision behind it, and who am I helping. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. Shifting a little bit again here, as a mother and a founder, you're building both a company and a family at the same time, which is so inspirational and motivational for women, all women in business and just in life in general. So, what systems or mindset shifts have helped you manage that dual role without burning out? And how do you use that to define your success on your own terms today?
One thing is that I don't know if it's me or in general moms have this, but once I became a mom and 3 years ago, I like got like some power, I would say.
Yeah.
I think becoming a mom, it's it's like you work on a different gear completely. you
Yeah.
know I think kids very often give you inspiration, and because when I was single and doing just things for myself, it was just me. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, it's just me, I have time. I was like really not, I would even say maybe not as ambitious as I should have been. And
Hmm.
now when I look, like, what was I doing with all my free time? I don't know. Because now I rarely have time, and I would say I'm doing much, much more than when I
Yeah.
didn't have kids. So um yeah, I think my family gave me a lot of power, that let's do this and let's build more, and I want to give a great example too. So
Yeah.
yeah, that of course, I think other things are, you have to be really organized and structured
Hmm.
around it, because I have to kind of divide my time and say, okay, this is time when I'm really working and has to be focused on work. And once my son is home, we're like, okay, this is time for us.
Yeah.
But as well, what I say always to people, once you have a business and it's like a family business like we have, a lot of life and family, it's kind of intertwined, like
Yeah.
everything is together. And sometimes, even if we're on a holidays or doing something, we're like answering emails and stuff and have to call back our clients or like resolve some issues. And I'm okay with that. And this is my why, because I want my son to learn that this is work, this is
Mhm.
life, and tomorrow you will do the same. And it's very important to make it fun, you
Yes.
know and I think what I mean by that, okay, if you are working and your life and it's everything it's together, at least make it enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's super important for anyone listening out there to keep
Yeah.
in mind.
Yeah.
And to kind of wrap things up here, for listeners who might be at the beginning of their journey, maybe they're stuck in a path that doesn't feel like it's their own. What's one thing you would tell them to start doing differently today to either reclaim their creativity or begin designing a life that truly fits to them?
Great question. um I would say, as always, I say to everyone, it's experiment more and try more.
Yeah.
Because if someone is stuck, even when I think about my past and when I was in one business and wasn't really sure about that business and wanted to go into something else and start building, I was just saying to myself, just try. And I think that got me somewhere, because action is very important. If I will just sit and kind of be frozen and thinking about it, that nothing will happen. But I think action and trying things and experimenting will give you the best feedback.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that wraps up today's episode of the Funding Blueprint. A huge thank you to you, Lidija, for sharing your story so generously, from the realities of building a business as a foreign founder to redefining success around creativity, family, and freedom. This episode was extra special because we had the chance to hear from both halves of a dynamic duo, Lidija and Johnathan, co-founders of Good Theory. Together, they're building a business that's as intentional as it is impactful. And what's so refreshing is that while they're deeply aligned in vision and values, they're also carving out totally unique paths, each bringing their own perspective, strengths, and leadership style to the table. If Lydia's story inspired you to rethink the blueprint you're building, whether that means leaving the 9 to 5, embracing your creative side, or just making space for more alignment in your life, we hope you'll take some of these insights and apply them to your own journey. Be sure to check out Good Theory to learn more about the amazing work they're doing. And if you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share the episode with a fellow founder or creative friend who needs to hear it. Thank you so much again, Lidija. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Funding Blueprint.
Thank you. Thanks.